Welcome to Intuitive Seek. My name is Mary Treen, and every week I aim to bring you a grounded approach to all things intuition. Through personal stories, experiences, and practices, offering energetic reflections to help you discover, connect, and fully realize how your unique power of intuition is your own greatest teacher.
Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome to January 2024. Welcome to 2024. How are you? How are you feeling? Have you really felt a shift? Is there a shift in your energy? Are you nursing a night out today if you're listening to it on the 1st? For those of you in the Southern Hemisphere, it'll be the 2nd that this comes out. But I'm really curious how many of you, I don't know if you heard Bandit there, I'm going to leave it in because he's obviously curious too. My cat, for new listeners. But I'm really curious if things shifted for you in maybe the way that you welcome in the new year. That's what I've really been noticing, that so many of us wanted a different energy welcoming in this new 2024 calendar year. If you're used to being at home and quiet, maybe you went out. Maybe you had a real night. And if you usually did maybe go out and really imbibe and have a lot of fun, but maybe not as much fun the next day, maybe you stayed home. Maybe you woke up more refreshed than maybe you ever have. Maybe some of you, it's the first time you haven't had a hangover on New Year's Day. And I say all of this because that is that energy that I'm really feeling for January, where there is a shift, where the changes that we've all really been experiencing over the last 4 years, but definitely over last year, that we're coming into our own, that all of those changes that we experienced are showing us how we're meant to meet this new year. And before I dive into the energy impressions for January fully, I really wanted to say thank you and welcome. Welcome to new listeners, new subscribers to my newsletter. Thank you for staying connected. And to everyone who's been with me for maybe since the beginning of this podcast, thank you. Because 2023, I feel like I'll be reflecting on it for quite a while, probably throughout the next few months. But 2023 was definitely a year where I didn't have as much to say outwardly. I didn't have as much to express, to share. But that doesn't mean that there wasn't so much happening behind the scenes, within me, within my creative projects, within my work. So I do feel a new momentum for this year where the podcast has a little bit more of a new energy for me. I have a lot of inspiration on what I want to share and a lot of different ways that I'll be sharing it. So not to be too secretive or cryptic, but if you are like me and you really did a lot of work behind the scene last year, and maybe you didn't finish or fully create all the things that you were dreaming of, this may be the year that inspired action is meant to unfold. In 2022, The word I chose for the year was wild trust. To really challenge myself to wildly trust myself, trust the timing, trust the process, trust all the things that I always kind of fought against. To let myself kind of relax into the urgency and just trust. And even though I did have a new word in 2023, which was harness, I felt like I was kind of harnessing what all of that trust offered me. That I was really able to release all the things that were not part of me or who I was evolving or moving into, which really is just more of myself, shedding all of those things that aren't really me and my work and my life. And it's kind of shocking when I look back at 2020 or even at the beginning of this podcast in 2021, how much has changed. But really, it doesn't even feel like change in the way of transformation. It really feels more like a blooming or a blossoming, an opening, an unveiling, an uncovering, a revealing. Basically, all the words that really mean coming out from hiding, coming out from the shadows, allowing myself and my voice and what I do and what I want to do and what I want to create and what I want to share to be seen and heard by those who are meant to see and hear it. And it really reminds me the last 4 years, and especially last year, the quote of be yourself so that the ones who are meant to find you can find you. And I don't know if that's the exact quote, but I think you get the idea. And I'm sharing that too because I know that I'm not alone in that. And that's kind of the exciting part within the turmoil and the uncertainty and the heartbreak of the world around us right now is we get to remember our center, our truth, our authenticity, who we are and what we can do to help others, but to also make sure that we're covering and filling our needs so that we can continue to help. So it's really interesting for me to look at January because last year there was so much that I had to kind of release and allow to just be what they were and trust the timing, to release kind of my grip and my attachment on timelines. Because I did create and do a lot, but there was a lot more that I wanted to do. And instead of feeling guilty or regret, I just feel excited because I'm trusting the timing. And it feels like this year, that timing is kind of lining up. So I'm excited to continue to share with you all the new that's coming. And I hope that you are releasing any regret or guilt around what didn't happen last year. And that you can trust that timing too. And really trusting yourself. So let's dive in to January energy impressions. And if this is your first time listening, or just as a reminder, these are for you and for me. to help us remember what we need to know for the month ahead, to help us gain more clarity on how our intuition is speaking to us, to help us understand what we need to know so that we can really connect to the highest good of ourselves and the highest good of all through the month of January, so that we can have more grounded clarity and not get caught up in the things that don't matter or aren't helpful. And we can gain some beautiful insight. So, with everything I'm sharing, take what you need and leave the rest. But really listen to your heart and your intuition and your little beautiful signals, anything that resonates within your body, within your soul and your mind. Trust that if it's resonating for you, it's what you need to hear and what you needed to remember or feel inspired by. Because I really feel that if you're listening to this right now, you're listening to it for a reason. There is something that you needed to hear or remember. So I hope that I can offer that to you. And it's an honor to. And it also reminds me of how connected we really all are in our experience, even though it's in so many different ways. Because I go into a deep meditation with the intention of receiving what we all may need to know that will serve us for the highest good, just like I said, and in turn, the highest good of all. So I hope that you can feel that and that this does serve you and help you and inspire you, because I'm constantly inspired by so many things and so many people. And I hope I can be that for you. So let's dive into, without further ado, January 2024 energy impressions. So the very first kind of energy that I felt was the image of a snake kind of shedding their skin, but that last piece of skin hanging on, or, a chick coming out of an egg, but that last piece of shell just really sticking, or even a cocoon where the butterfly is moving out, but there's still a little piece of that cocoon that is kind of hindering the full flight. And that's what January really feels like, that we're going to be coming out of this quite transformational year, but a transformation of moving more into who we are, more alignment, more authenticity, releasing all those facets and old skin of ourselves that doesn't fit and maybe never fit, but it's finally time to release it. Maybe it kept us more comfortable, more safe, a little bit more palatable to the people around us. But in January, that last little piece is going to slowly, finally be released. But it might not be as easy. So there may be a little bit of resistance to some changes that needed to happen and that do need to happen. But it feels like, let's stay gentle and compassionate and loving with ourselves, patient, and continue to trust the timing and not rush things. It's so easy, especially in January, with the energy of the world around us, of new year, new you, all the new programs, all the new transformational packages. Try not to get swept up in that. allow those to redirect you back to what you need and what you are experiencing and how you can trust your own timing. Because the next thing that I really felt for January was that it's a month of fire. And not in a scary way, in that figurative, beautiful fire. That fire within. What is sparking within, lighting you up? What is being illuminated for you to see? What are you seeing differently? What are you remembering that you may have forgotten? But it's also the fire around us that's helping to clear and burn and remove all of that old, those bits that are still holding tight. It feels like if we focus on what sparks and lights us up, focus on that inner flame, that the results of just focusing on that will give us some ease in releasing what we don't need anymore. So yes, a month of fire. What does that mean to you? Does that remind you of a light that needs some stoking, some care, some attention, some breath? What does your inner fire really need this month? And that feels like a call to take care of our solar plexus, to take care of that energy center of ours that really holds our shine, that holds our expression. But when it is not in harmony or in balance, it can manifest in different ways. Because our solar plexus, about 2 to 3 inches above our navel, it's often referred to as our inner sun, sometimes referred to as the seat of our life force, where we can really anchor into our personal power, to the light that other people receive from us, how we express our heart is kind of through the vehicle of our shine, of our solar plexus energy, where we really hold our confidence and self-respect and esteem and optimism. But when that energy is kind of clouded or blocked, we can have less physical and mental energy. Often it can manifest as experiencing, unexplained exhaustion and fatigue, but also showing up in our stomach and our digestion. Sometimes with food allergies or different reactions to foods that normally didn't upset our stomach. And also sometimes skin issues like eczema or acne. But in a more emotional way, it can bring us more directly in the face of feelings of hopelessness, feeling more heavy, weighed down, indecisive, really have a difficult time moving forward or choosing a direction. We can feel really stuck. And overall, we can have a really deeply difficult time trusting ourselves. And our self-trust is vital to trusting our intuition and really translating and trusting the translation of the language of our intuition. So in January, how can you know when to trust your intuition? If you joined my free workshop in November, there was some really great exercises that we went through that helped you connect to that, and especially in the meditation journey. And if you haven't had a chance to watch that or join, then just reach out to me. I'll put a little contact in the show notes and send me a message. I'd love to watch the workshop and I will send you access to the link. And if you haven't joined my email list for my newsletter, you can download it from there. So when you put your name in, I've added it as the free gift for you. So you get to watch the workshop. So either way, either message me or subscribe to my newsletter, and you'll be able to really experience that workshop, which will help you connect to that trust and knowing when to trust yourself and your intuition, because January needs you to do that. And this month also really feels like a time to connect in a really beautiful way, and maybe in a way that you haven't in a while, or maybe even ever, to that sparkle of your inner child. Maybe do some inner child healing. There's meditations, reach out to someone to help support you. I connect to that energy quite often in one-on-one sessions. But one way you can do this for yourself is maybe, and if this resonates, as always, but take some time to write a letter to yourself at a time when you were a child, so in your childhood, when you consciously remember dimming your light, when you really remember a moment in time when you were a child, when you consciously diluted your shine, when you dampened the way that you naturally wanted to express your inner fire, your light, but you felt like you shouldn't. Write a letter to yourself at that time and really trust what comes in that letter. Because healing is about acceptance. So maybe expressing understanding and acceptance to your inner child who didn't feel safe to share their beautiful, unique fire. That beautiful light that we all carry, but is unique to each of us, because each unique part of us is needed in the world. Connect to that part of you in your childhood that felt like they couldn't. They couldn't share, couldn't express, needed to dampen and dim and hide. And that may help you accept more of where you need to pay attention to that fire within. And offering that beautiful, natural way of healing that part of yourself, bringing it into the present, into your adult energy for safety. And imagine the creativity and the wonder and the inspiration that that part of yourself could offer to you this month. And maybe expand for the year. So this month, this January 2024, is really feeling all about illumination, where you are illuminating yourself and so much else. But that may mean that there also could be some things or people or situations or ideas or perspectives or opinions that may not look so aligned anymore in that beautiful light, in that illumination. Maybe you had like a different perspective or opinion or point of view that by you really paying attention to your light, your fire, and allowing it to illuminate, that may show you where you were perhaps mistaken in your perspective, in your view, in your vision. And that's okay. Because that's part of forgetting. And we're remembering that, wait, that's not right. It's actually this way. This is the way. And that can happen when we really pay attention to our inner light and what it illuminates, it can allow us the opportunity, and I laugh because it's not the most fun, but it can be a time when we are humbled. But that allows us to be more honest and more ourselves. So in January, where can you be honest with yourself and allow some humble action? Allow yourself to be humbled, because it's a really important part of getting to that authentic way that you are meant to express your power and your shine and your fire. And it usually happens when we let our ego or the way we want to be seen, or when we're living kind of in a righteousness, a self-righteousness that is just clouding that honest part of ourselves. So when you are, or if you do, find yourself being humbled by experiences that you have this month, remember the compassion, remember the love that you can give to yourself and that part of you that needed to be humbled. And the animal that can really help us this month, when I was in my meditation, was the bee, was the honeybee. And what a beautiful symbol of that fire, of our light, especially with the black and yellow stripes. Because so much of our light is illuminating our shadow, that dark part of ourselves that is not always so obvious. But it also reminds me of that creative void energy that we felt so much last year. But with the power of our inner sun, we can really bring those creations, that creative spirit, that creativity that needs to be realized in the world. We can bring it to light. And really to remember that trusting ourselves, being optimistic, having hope and faith and confidence, that helps us dream. That helps us really imagine the things that may not seem possible. Because bees are a long-time symbol for accomplishing the impossible. Because for so long, science had no idea how bees were able to fly, because the physics didn't make sense. Because their body was so big and their wings were so small. But now we know that, yes, it looked impossible. It looked like, how could they fly with such a difference in their wingspan and their body weight? But now we know, or science has figured out, that they fly by moving their wings at such a rapid rate that they generate tiny hurricanes, because they flap their wings so quickly that little tiny hurricanes in the air are created that we can't see, but that lift them. So that is so inspiring. How inspiring is that? And sure, maybe we have seen this before. Be inspired by the bee. And they're accomplishing the seemingly impossible. But the fact that they're working at such a rapid rate that they're creating tiny hurricanes that help to lift them up and soar. But when you just look at it, it's like, how is that bee moving? That's ridiculous. How is that even happening? There's no way. It just feels like such a beautiful message for this month and for the year ahead. Of so much of our work may be unseen. And so looking for that validation has to come from within. We cannot wait for someone else to tell us that we can fly. We can't wait for somebody to tell us, I see how hard you're working. Yes, you can do it. Keep going. I hope you have that person, but we can't count on that person because we have to realize it from within. And that's how our fire can help. It can help to generate the air around us to move in a way that allows us to really fly. And I find that so inspiring. And the bee is such a beautiful symbol for all the things, tasting the sweet nectar, making sure that we celebrate the honey that we create with the things that we're making. To really stop and remember often how much we already have available to us. But also that being really busy as a bee, sure, that can make us do a lot of things, but it can also be a way for us to distract ourselves from what we are meant to be doing. And maybe even what our intuition is asking us to do that may feel impossible. So we're going to do all the things to try to make it work instead of that one way that feels a little bit of a stretch that our intuition is telling us. So another reason to really trust our intuition, because the bee can remind us that no matter how great the dream, there is a promise of fulfilling it if we act on it, if we pursue it, if we act on our inspiration. What our light is shining and illuminating right in front of us. How can you trust that more? How can you trust yourself? What do you need? What does your heart need? What do you need to let go of and release? Is it an old story, a limiting belief, a way you were or a way you have been? What is that last bit that is still holding on to you or that you're still holding on to that is not really in alignment or a match for who you are now in the present? And maybe even if you can look at it this way, who you are wanting and desiring to step into being this year. What doesn't fit that? And how can you let it go? Use January for that, for tying up all the loose ends that you don't want to bring into the year. Because December was a bit foggy. So maybe give yourself a bit of grace this month to dream and to remember how beautifully, incredibly, gorgeously unique you are. And how powerful that unique beauty and wisdom of your inner fire and your inner sun is. Because we all have it. And how amazing would it be if we all showed it and shared it? What could that do to the collective? What could that do to the world to help light it up too? To help spark that beautiful light that some people have forgotten. Because it's not always about us. Whatever we do does have an impact on the people in the world around us. So what can you do in January to really be and return to yourself? And in my meditation, I was inspired to write this nice, rhythmic, rhyming message that felt really beautiful for January. So let me share it, and maybe it will resonate with a part of you that needs to hear it. So in January, be prepared to be seen. even if it feels like you're traveling in between. Be brave, be true. Remember the little knocks, the ringing, the subtle clues, the tingles on your fingertips, pointing to a new way, maybe a new view, and choose to start walking because they're waiting for you too. And I felt like that was quite inspiring for the month. And let's look at some journal prompts, some ways to connect in a deeper way to what you really may need to know, remember, and acknowledge for January. So the first question, and you can do this in a journal, you can speak out loud to yourself, maybe in a voice note, whatever feels like the best way for you to receive kind of the truth, the natural way that your intuition is wanting to answer these questions. So number 1 for January. What do you feel poised to do? How did 2023 teach you to be more confident? And what was the knowledge that you gained that really prepared you for the year? What are you poised to do? And trust what comes, even if it feels kind of odd or obvious. The obvious is usually the funniest one because it's the one that we resist the most because it seems too easy of an answer. So the second question, in January, some things are still ending like we spoke about. But it's up to you to make a choice. So it may feel like you're at a crossroads. So can you trust that whatever path you choose is the right one? How can you trust that whatever path you choose is the right one? What do you need to trust that whatever path you choose is the right one? Okay, and the last one. What dream, desire, manifestation that you are calling in, however you like to label it, what do you still need to release your attachment to the outcome of? What do you still need to surrender to for your dream, desire, or manifestation? And what may help you answer that is to really think about, how can you be more adventurous? How are you being called to kind of jump right in or leap or take that risk? Because that will lead you to the outcome that you may still be attached to that is holding you back from really soaring. So I hope you can take time to answer those for yourself, to really set some beautiful intentions for the month through that intuitive inquiry. Because I know they help me so much, and many of you that I hear from through these energy impressions. So thank you so much for listening to January 2024's Energy Impressions. Happy, happy, happy New Year to you. And thank you for being here, for letting me know if you resonated with the energy that I'm feeling and moving through for January. And if you have any thoughts or questions, please don't hesitate to send me a message through my website, treenlight.com, or through my Instagram at treenlight.healing. Check the show notes where you'll find the links to receive my Knowing When to Trust Your Intuition workshop if you haven't watched that yet. And if you're curious about working with me, I do offer one-on-one sessions, distance healing remote sessions, and my 4-month one-on-one healing journey. And if that journey sounds interesting, maybe piqued a little bit of interest in your intuition, Maybe you had a little bit of a, hmm, that's something that I may need for 2024. Well, I do offer free clarity sessions through my website, and I'll leave all those links in the show notes. And hugely appreciated if you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, subscribe or follow. And if you feel called to support, I would be so, so grateful if you shared this episode with a friend or if you left a review. They really help other people find this podcast. So thank you so much again. Happy New Year. Happy January. Be kind to yourself, and I'll talk to you soon.
I know, Mary. I just want to say something very, very mean.